The rich lady had just woken up when suddenly she had an 18-year-old son brought home by her husband. The husband, who has a stepchild, proudly introduced to his wife that this is his son. The son saw her and didn't hesitate to call mother. Junhye was so angry that she stopped eating and left. Junhye was the daughter-in-law of a wealthy family, but her father-in-law favored sons over daughters. Even though he had 3 granddaughters, he still gave the inheritance to whoever had a son. So Junhye's husband immediately brought his illegitimate son home. Junhye knew her husband's misery, but her face showed no anger. When returned to the villa, she went to the room that was made for her child and looked at each object. Perhaps Junhye also wanted to have a child, but unfortunately, God did not allow it. Seeing her like that, her husband came to her side, looking like he was crying and in pain. Junhye looked at this bad husband and didn't want to say much and left. Because of this fake face of the upper class, Junhye is extremely disgusted. This student just wants to study peacefully, but his poor background is always the target of teasing by his rich classmates. But these friends always use him as a target to bully, just because he is the son of a fishmonger at the market. Because his mother works hard day and night, he tries to endure the arrogant rich people, but they insult his mother and sister, making him extremely angry. So he stands up and beats up the rich friend. Unfortunately, he breaks his friend's arm. Do-hee is selling fish at the market when she receives a phone call from the police. She panics and leaves her shop to run to find her son. While running to the police station, Do-hee is accidentally hit by Junhye. Junhye originally had good intentions and wanted to take Do-hee to the hospital for a checkup, but instead of going to the hospital, Do-hee asked Junhye to take her to her son's school. When entering the school, Do-hee saw her son being forced to apologize by the teacher. In order to avoid her son being expelled from school, Do-hee still bowed her head and begged the teachers and police to forgive her son. When she went outside, her son felt extremely guilty towards his mother. Do-hee pretended that nothing had happened and encouraged her son that as long as it was good for him, she would do anything. After that, Do-hee returned to continue her work. She thought everything had gone smoothly, but unexpectedly, the rich friend's family did not let it go. Do-hee was called out by the rich friend's mother to talk. The rich friend's mother forced Do-hee to pay compensation for daring to break her son's arm. She thought she was rich, so she kept insulting Do-hee and son. But Do-hee endured and begged for forgiveness for her son. However, the rich friend's mother turned to insult Do-hee's son and said that he would only be a robber in the future. Hearing this, Do-hee could not bear it anymore and quickly stood up and walked towards the rich boy. Thought that Do-hee would slap this boy, but unexpectedly she knelt down. Do-hee accepted to endure for the sake of her son, but they did not know. The rich son even took the half-drunk cup of water and poured it on Do-hee's head and said that his arm was broken, so he could not hold it. Even though he acted so rudely, Do-hee still begged the rich man to forgive her son. When the rich mother reached the door, Do-hee still ran after this woman to beg, but accidentally bumped into the rich woman sitting next to. The rich mother was extremely scared when she saw Junhye, so she quickly said goodbye to everything and left immediately. Do-hee saw that and happily thanked Junhye, knowing that Junhye was rich, but Do-hee did not expect Junhye to be such a powerful person. Junhye was extremely confused when she saw Do-hee willing to kneel before the enemy. Do-hee painfully said that for her son's safety, she was willing to give up her dignity or her life. Junhye still could not accept it and told Do-hee that if she wanted revenge, Junhye could help. Because she was a tycoon, Junhye understood rich people very well. Junhye thought that the mother and son would not easily forgive Do-hee, but Do-hee thought that no one was that bad. After that, Do-hee left and refused to join the revenge group that Junhye founded. Seeing that Mi-suk, who was sitting at the same table with Junhye, quickly reminded Junhye. Mi-suk thought that she should not speak so bluntly to others like that. Mi-suk is a gentle and polite woman. She and Junhye met at a wealthy event. Mi-suk is the wife of a minister who is running for president. From the first moment they met, Junhye noticed the bruise on Mi-suk's hand. While going to the bathroom, Junhye accidentally saw Mi-suk and her husband. Originally, the husband only raised his hand to grab something, but Mi-suk panicked and avoided it. That proved that the bruise was the result of domestic violence. But in front of the crowd, Mi-suk's husband still acted like an exemplary husband and a good father. This made Junhye extremely dissatisfied. After the event, Junhye directly asked Mi-suk if Mi-suk was beaten by her husband. Suddenly, someone came to ask, causing Mi-suk to unexpectedly deny it. Junhye did not hesitate to bring up the subject of revenge with Mi-suk. But no matter what, the other person was Mi-suk's husband, so she tactfully refused and acted as if nothing had happened. But not long after, Mi-suk's husband got drunk again. When drunk, he began to consider Mi-suk unlucky and continuously beat her mercilessly. The family that seemed to be a model for the whole nation had domestic violence. What was more heartbreaking was that after the eldest daughter came home and saw her mother being beaten by her father, she acted as if it was normal and left. She also thought that her mother was too weak, which was why the tragedy happened. Being looked down upon by both her children Jung and her husband, Mi-suk felt her life was falling apart. While cleaning the house after her husband's rage, Mi-suk picked up the family photo that was smashed to pieces on the floor and burst into tears. She felt that if she continued like this, she would lose everything from her children. So she called Jung-hae to express her determination to join the revenge group. As for Do-hee, just as Jung-hee warned, when her son was going to school, he heard that the rich people were planning to harm his sister. He was furious and chased after them to ask for clarification, but unexpectedly, the rich people knocked him out and ran away. Hearing that her son was hospitalized, Do-hee was extremely worried. Do-hee's son was still lying in the hospital bed, but the rich mother called to threaten her. She said that she would never leave Do-hee and son alone. Do-hee was angry and no longer believed in the law, but wanted to seek the law of karma. On the way to the hospital, Do-hee met Mi-suk. So through Mi-suk, Do-hee got Jung-hae's contact information. Do-hee decided to join Jung-hae's revenge club. So 3 women, 3 social statuses, 3 circumstances, and 3 different grudges gathered together on a rainy day to fight against injustice. Jung-hae represents the upper class, Mi-suk is middle class, and Do-hee is from the poorest class. The only thing they have in common is that they founded a revenge club. After sitting down and introducing each other, they found out that Jung-hee was only 36 years old, while Mi-suk was 42 years old, and Do-hee was 45 years old. Seeing that Do-hee was also very curious as to why a young, beautiful, rich person like Jung-hee and a gentle person like Mi-suk had to seek revenge. Could it be that their husbands had an affair or were abusive? Speaking of this, Jung-hae and Mi-suk's faces were a bit sad. The truth is that Jung-hae's husband had an affair and had a child, while Mi-suk was abused by her husband. Knowing this, Do-hee was extremely surprised. Returning to the main target of the revenge club, Jung-hee took 20 million won from her pocket and gave it to Do-hee, telling Do-hee to take it to compensate the rich mother. Even though Do-hee was just a fishmonger, she was a very straightforward person. Do-hee refused to accept Jung-hae's money and said that she was not a beggar and that they were just 3 strangers. Do-hee did not believe that there was anyone in the world willing to give her such a large amount of money, but Jung-hae had nothing more than money. To her, 20 million was just small change. To gain more trust, Jung-hae told her story. After listening, Do-hee sympathized and said that Jung-hae probably wanted to stab her husband. Although Jung-hae really wanted revenge, she did not want to kill anyone. Mi-suk agreed with this point. Their group was working to take revenge but had to not break the law. Revenge doesn't always mean killing each other. Do-hee said that if they don't do anything, divorce is fine, but Jung-hae's marriage is the link between 2 of Korea's top families, so divorce is impossible. Hearing this, Do-hee also felt helpless on behalf of Jung-hae. Do-hee knew that it would be better not to join at first, but as soon as her thoughts were shaken, when they went to the door to pay, they met a hot-tempered uncle. This man was bullying the female employee of the coffee shop. He ordered hot coffee, but when he came out, he asked for iced coffee. Seeing this, Do-hee couldn't help but grab a bucket of dirty water and called Jung-hae and Mi-suk to deal with this man. So the 3 women together threw the bucket of dirty water straight at this man. When he ran out to chase after them, he slipped and fell to the ground, which was also the first mission of the revenge group. This incident also made Do-hee no longer have any intention of leaving the group. Do-hee took Jung-hae and Mi-suk to her store to talk. After waiting for Do-hee to finish selling, Mi-suk suggested that the matter of handling Do-hee's son should still be handled by the law. But Do-hee was afraid that her son would get into trouble, so she had to agree to reconcile with the other party. Hearing this, Jung-hae, who had been sitting quietly drinking coffee, immediately helped. With just one phone call, Jung-hae asked the best lawyer to consult on this case. This woman was just a country fishmonger yesterday, but after just one night, she had become a classy lady. Do-hee, wearing an expensive dress and a rich demeanor, entered the shop to meet the rich mother, making the rich mother unable to believe her eyes. It turned out that after being consulted by Jung-hae's lawyer, and with the help of Jung-hae and Mi-suk in transforming, Do-hee confidently went to question the rich mother. Do-hee demanded that this woman show her son's disability certificate in order to compensate, but the rich mother didn't have that because her son's arm wasn't broken. Seeing that the other party seemed confused, Do-hee began to overwhelm them with questions that she had memorized beforehand, causing the rich mother to stammer and tremble. But after all, the rich mother still had money and power, so Do-hee soon became disadvantaged. Seeing that the situation was not good, Mi-suk immediately called Jung-hae for help. Jung-hae's arrival made the rich mother immediately scared. Furthermore, Jung-hae also said that Do-hee was her close sister, which made the rich mother even more scared. This woman immediately lowered the compensation from 20 million to 5 million won. For Do-hee, that number was acceptable, so the matter of revenge for Do-hee was resolved. So they opened champagne at the convenience store to celebrate. But feeling a bit bored, Do-hee suddenly had an idea. So Do-hee took Jung-hae and Mi-suk to her house. This was the first time someone who was used to living in luxury like Jung-hae had been to such a place. Although the house was small. It was very neat and cozy. Do-hee and Miso quickly started cooking, while Jung-hae just looked around and visited the place where the poor lived. She also did not hesitate to wear Do-hee's clothes, even though they were very outrageous. Here the three of them became closer. Do-hee thought that if she lived on her own, everything would pass. But she did not expect that money was still the thing that made people chase after it. Because Do-hee did not want her children to suffer, she tried her best. Mi-suk heard that and immediately said that everyone would become a parent, but not everyone could be a good parent. Hearing about being a mother, Jung-hae felt a little sad. Everyone had their own children, but she did not, so she fell asleep to forget her sadness. Only then did Do-hee know that Jung-hae did not have children, so her heart ached. So Do-hee immediately changed the subject. While Jung-hae was sleeping, Do-hee sent Mi-suk home first. Unexpectedly, something happened at home. As soon as the two left, Jung-hae woke up to go to the bathroom. At this time, Do-hee's son also came home from school. He brought his new close brother to visit because this brother was the one who called the ambulance when he fainted. But the boy did not know that this brother was Jung-hae's husband's stepchild. As soon as Soo-jum entered the house, he heard someone asking for toilet paper in the bathroom. He did not expect it to be his stepmother. Moreover, she was so drunk that she opened the door and called even while taking off her pants. Although very embarrassed, Soo-jum still gave Jung-hae the box of toilet paper and ran away. But it was also thanks to this opportunity that Soo-jum learned that his stepmother seemed to hate his father because of him. Soo-jum quickly ran away, leaving the mess for Do-hee's son to handle. Fortunately, Do-hee's son is a kind and gentle person, so even though he saw Jung-hae crying drunk, he still patiently listened. When Do-hee came back, she saw that her son had to use all his strength to stop Jung-hae from making a fuss. She didn't expect a rich lady to be so adorable when drunk. Jung-hae childish and asked Do-hee to let her stay overnight because her husband was on a business trip today, so she didn't want to go home to see her husband's stepchild. But there was no need to worry too much about this stepchild. After Soo-jum returned home, he experienced the free life in a big house. He tried all the entertainments of the rich to see if there was anything fun, but even though he did everything, he was still too lonely in this house. Unable to stop his curiosity, Soo-jum sneaked into his stepmother's room. He was also very sympathetic to Jung-hae's reaction when she saw him. When Soo-jum entered the house, he noticed the broken doll. When he first arrived, he saw that his stepmother paid a lot of attention to this doll, as if it were a souvenir. He turned on the music and it brought a feeling of relaxation to his heart. The next morning, when Jung-hae woke up, she seemed to have lost her memory. She had forgotten or tried to forget her embarrassment from last night. Do-hee's son was also very understanding. He even cooked Jung-hae a pot of delicious seafood noodles. This was the first time Jung-hae had eaten noodles in her life. The experience of the rich was also very unique. After finishing eating, Jung-hae had to leave. She also conveniently gave Do-hee's son 3 checks as pocket money. However, the face value was up to 3 million won. When Jung-hae returned home and met Soo-jum, the two of them were extremely awkward because the stepmother and the husband's stepchild could not have any feelings for each other. While the two of them did not even look like mother and son, but when Soo-jum wanted to cook for her, Jung-hae was interested in the packages of noodles he had just bought, and so Jung-hae had the second time eating noodles in her life. At this time, Soo-jum also said that he knew Jung-hae didn't like him. Jung-hae said that she didn't hate Soo-jum, she just didn't like him being with her. It wasn't his fault that he was born, but her meal of noodles suddenly stopped when Soo-jum said he wanted to make a deal with Jung-hae. What was more shocking was that he wanted revenge. Soo-jum wanted revenge on his father, whom Jung-hae also hated very much. This surprised Jung-hae very much. How bad must the parents be for the son to want revenge to the end like that? Even though Jung-hae flatly refused, Soo-jum still did not give up. He thought that his parents had given birth to him and now arranged his life as they pleased, which was unacceptable. Therefore, he would become a son who betrayed his biological father and completely rejected him. However, Jung-hae thought that he was just a child and could not interfere in the affairs of adults. Jung-hae told Do-hee and Mi-suk about this to ask for advice. Mi-suk immediately objected because she saw that Soo-jum's situation was too pitiful and did not want him to be hurt anymore. Do-hee also did not agree to let Soo-jum join because after all, he was Jung-hae's husband's son. Who knows, maybe one day he would unexpectedly stab 3 people in the back. These words of the 2 people also made Jung-hae hesitate. At this time at school, Soo-jum saw Do-hee's son being bullied by rich people. Soo-jum Soo-jim didn't think much and directly poured a bucket of floor cleaning water on the head of that arrogant rich student. After this incident, Do-hee's son went to find Soo-jim to thank him, feeling that the other person had some resemblance, so the two brothers quickly became close. Meanwhile, Jung-hae at Do-hee's fish shop also decided not to let Soo-jim join her group. Unexpectedly, Soo-jim appeared right next to Do-hee's son wanted to invite Soo-jim to eat noodles, so he brought him home. Unexpectedly, it created a scene of stepmother and stepson meeting. Jung-hae felt uncomfortable when she saw Soo-jim, so she immediately stood up and left. When Soo-jim came home and found out that his stepmother hadn't eaten anything, he immediately cooked 2 bowls of seafood noodles and brought them out to invite Jung-hae to eat with him. The noodles were delicious, but Jung-hae still coldly refused Soo-jim's offer. Moreover, because Jung-hae saw that her room was a bit messy the day before, she became suspicious of him. Unexpectedly, Soo-jim sneaked into Jung-hae's room at night. Actually, Soo-jim only intended to leave the doll that Jung-hae liked, but unexpectedly, Jung-hae caught him. With her long-standing suspicion, she scolded Soo-jim for not knowing his status and chased Soo-jim out of the room. Only then did Jung-hae notice that the broken doll had been carefully reattached. It was Soo-jim who had fixed it until his hands bled to fix it for her. The words from his stepmother just now really made Soo-jim feel lost in this family. When she woke up the next morning, Soo-jim was nowhere to be seen. This made Jung-hae feel guilty for being harsh. At this time, she received a summons message from Do-hee. Just last night, Do-hee was extremely happy when her daughter was accepted as a teacher at a high school. So early in the morning, Do-hee's 2 children went to school excitedly. But as soon as they arrived at school to receive the job, the daughter encountered the lustful principal. While partying with his colleagues, he did not hesitate to molest her thigh, causing Do-hee's daughter to run home crying and scared. This made Do-hee extremely angry. She wished she could kill that principal. But in this society, if her daughter resisted, she would no longer have a job. So Do-hee went to Jung-hae and Mi-suk. After hearing the story, the revenge group was also extremely dissatisfied. This matter could not be resolved by resorting to the law. So Jung-hae immediately thought of a few plans, but in the end, it was still not feasible. Luckily, when she returned home today, Mi-suk learned from her husband that the principal would soon have a direct conversation with the parents. That was their chance for revenge. The next day, the 3 of them got in the car and went to a remote countryside. While they were happily singing, the 3 of them encountered a hay truck blocking the front of the car. Suddenly, the wind blew the hay and blocked the car window, causing Jung-hae to lose control. Luckily, none of them were hurt, but the car had been taken away. In the middle of the field, there was not a soul in sight. As the eldest sister, So Do-hee reassured Jung-hae and Mi-suk to trust her because she would find a car to give them a ride. So Do-hee stood out and posed in many sexy poses to ask for a ride, but it only looked scary and not attractive. In the end, the one who caught the car was still the beautiful Jung-hae. But when she opened the car, the smell of the car made her dizzy. The 3 of them wished that they could have a convertible. Who would have thought that their wish would come true? The 3 of them ended up sitting in the back of a pickup truck. The 3 sisters felt like they were going on a trip. Suddenly, it rained heavily, making the 3 of them soaked. The pickup truck drove them to the police station. Unexpectedly, Jung-hae came all the way here to bail out her husband's illegitimate child. Unexpectedly, Soo-jim dared to ask his stepmother to pick him up. Soo-jim was truly pitiful. Today was his grandparents' birthday. Although his grandparents had passed away, Soo-jim had been raised by his grandparents since he was young, so he returned to visit their graves and confided in them. Unexpectedly, he saw the planning department come to measure his house. Only then did Soo-jim realize that he was just a pawn of his biological parents. They took him home pretending to love him, but in reality, they were just trying to steal this land. Soo-jim went crazy and beat up the group of people who measured the land. At the police station, because he didn't listen, his biological mother directly accused him and denied responsibility, then leaving. So Soo-jim had no choice but to ask his stepmother to help. Do-hee and Mi-suk were also very surprised to see Jung-hae's husband's stepchild Soo-jim. To repay the 3 of them, Soo-jim invited them to his grandparents' house for dinner. It was just vegetables from the garden, but he could cook a delicious meal. The boy was both obedient and a good cook, making Do-hee and Mi-suk extremely fond of him. After eating, when they sat down to talk, Soo-jim told them about what happened today. He could not believe that his biological parents could be so bad because of money. Therefore, he had to become a useless child to them. In fact, Soo-jim had heard the conversation of the 3 people the day before, so he had to join their revenge group. However, this was not approved by the 3 people, the simple reason being that he was not an adult yet. Returning to the plan to take revenge on the principal, today was the day of the parent-teacher conference. The teacher's reputation was so low that only 10 parents were willing to come to the meeting. While the guests had not arrived yet, the revenge group sneaked in and put laxatives in the principal's cup of water. Do-hee had done many good deeds, but was not used to doing bad deeds, so she dropped the medicine everywhere. Luckily, Jung-hae stopped the principal at the door so they could escape, but they still hadn't put the medicine in the cup of water, considering the mission a failure, so Do-hee chose to confront him directly. Do-hee wanted to curse the principal directly in the face, but saw her daughter begging outside the door. No matter what, the mother's heart made her unable to say anything and could only swallow her tears. But Mi-suk is also a righteous person. Seeing Do-hee like that, Mi-suk also stood up to speak on her behalf, being a housewife all year round, so Mi-suk could not say anything harsh. Suddenly, the principal had a stomachache, so he postponed the meeting to go to the bathroom, but his pants were stuck to the chair. A few bodyguards came to help but could not undo it. The principal had no choice but to carry the chair into the bathroom. The three of them looked at each other in confusion, not understanding what was going on. It turned out that the one who did this for them was Soo-jum. Last night on the way back, he pretended to sleep and heard their plan. So Soo-jum sprayed glue and put drugs in the cup of water. The principal did not have peace when he got to the bathroom. He also received a text message that if he did not behave, today's incident would be posted online. With such an achievement, Soo-jum was officially admitted to the revenge group. After being admitted to the group, Soo-jum was extremely excited, but there was no plan for now. In order not to affect the revenge, Jung-hae also told him to keep his distance and attitude when they were at home. The next morning, Soo-jum's grandfather suddenly returned to see his grandson. Seeing this, the father immediately told Soo-jum to show his best in front of his grandfather, because all his grandfather needed was a grandson to continue the family line. Being a good and polite child, so Soo-jum initially won the grandfather's favor. Being rejected by father, so Soo-jum's father was make an appointment to talk by Soo-jum's biological mother to talk, knowing that the two were bad people but did not think that they were so bad that they would take advantage of their own son. All the father needed was Soo-jum's grandparents' land, while Soo-jum's biological mother only needed money to live a rich life. This made Soo-jum want to take revenge on them even more. He also wondered why Jung-hae married a bad person like his father. Obviously, a rich young lady like Jung-hae could have a better life, but Jung-hae didn't have the right to choose because Jung-hae had no say in her family. Even at her mother's birthday party, she was just an extra. Jung-hae could only watch her older sister arrange everything. The older sister also didn't like Jung-hae, so she always mocked Jung-hae for having an 18-year-old child. Such an attitude was really not like a family member at all. The reason was because Jung-hae was only her father's illegitimate child. Since she was little, she had to endure her older sister's hatred. Even at her mother's birthday party, Jung-hae was the last one to arrive. When she arrived, she saw her husband brazenly bringing his illegitimate child to attend. Taking this opportunity, Jung-hae's older sister tried to mock Soo-jum's situation, which was very similar to her stepmother's. Now Jung-hae probably understands how her stepmother felt back then. Those words made Jung-hae lower her head throughout the meal. Seeing that Soo-jum immediately spoke up to defend her stepmother, he said that his mother treated him very well, no different from her own child. Seeing that Jung-hae also said that was born is not the child's fault. Jung-hae said these words to Soo-jum, but she also said them to herself. These words made the two fathers at the table speechless. After saying that Jung-hae also left first, she got into the car and leaned on the steering wheel, making Soo-jum think she was crying. Unexpectedly, when he got closer, he saw Jung-hae smiling triumphantly. Jung-hae was very happy to be able to argue with her older sister for the first time. After many things, Jung-hae's group gathered to relieve stress. They went to a flower arrangement class together to clear their minds. Mi-suk was a very skillful girl, so in no time she was able to arrange a beautiful vase of flowers. While Do-hee just touched it, the flower broke in half, but she is still better when Jung-hae is squeezing out each petal. Realizing that this fun was not enough to relieve stress, Jung-hae took Do-hee and Mi-suk to the shooting range. Mi-suk was shocked by Do-hee and Jung-hae's recklessness. Mi-suk closed her eyes and imagined the target as her enemy. Shooting the gun relieved her stress a bit. When leaving, the three of them met the two husbands in the elevator. Do-hee saw that something was wrong and went another way. The two husbands met Jung-hae and Mi-suk and went to eat. At the dining table, Jung-hae kept asking about Mi-suk's husband. She also told an example about a man abusing his wife, aiming at Mi-suk's husband. Mi-suk was afraid of being exposed, so she pulled Jung-hae out to scold. Mi-suk said that no matter what, the person inside was the father of her child, so Mi-suk didn't want Jung-hae to behave like that. In order to avoid conflict, they sought out Do-hee to mend their relationship. However, their group was about to encounter an incident. The day before, on the way back, Mi-suk had seen her daughter talking to the son of a rich mother. Mi-suk was extremely worried and asked her daughter if you knew that the rich friend had bullied Do-hee's son. Mi-suk's daughter not only did not take precautions, but also arrogantly said that I had been hanging out with those friends and had also bullied Do-hee's son. This left Mi-suk speechless. Mi-suk chased after her daughter to advise, but her daughter, who had always looked down on mother, turned up the music and locked in room. Today, when Do-hee's son was standing across the street, a motorbike came speeding by, causing Soo-jim and Do-hee's son to fall. The motorbike also wobbled and fell into a pile of trash. Mi-suk was shocked to learn that the person riding the motorbike was her daughter. This made Do-hee think that playing with the person who bullied her son was also a bad person. Mi-suk protected her daughter, saying that her daughter was not as bad as Do-hee thought. However, every mother loves their child, so Do-hee blamed Mi-suk for knowing the story and still acting noble to deceive her. And then the two of them argued, leaving Jung-hae at a loss for what to do. Seeing this, Mi-suk quickly told her daughter to apologize to Do-hee and son. But Mi-suk's daughter was extremely sullen and left without even saying hello to anyone. This really agitated Do-hee. The revenge group was also on the verge of disbanding. On the way home, the son comforted Do-hee to calm down because he had never seen that girl bully him before. Mi-suk also took her daughter home to console, but her husband got drunk and waited for Mi-suk to come home and beat her. When the daughter saw her father, she held her head and screamed miserably. Perhaps growing up in such a family made her like this. In order to save the revenge group, Jung-hae and Soo-jum played a trick to create a meeting between Mi-suk and Do-hee. The three of them sat down to talk together again. Do-hee also spoke up and said that she was too angry. Mi-suk also admitted her mistake for not knowing how to raise her child. The relationship between the three of them became good again. This made Jung-hae feel relieved, because to her, the revenge group was the only relationship she had. Jung-hae also told the truth that she was just her father's illegitimate child, and that she did not know who her mother was, nor did she receive any love from her mother. After listening, Do-hee and Mi-suk found Jung-hae pitiful. They raised their glasses and swore to stay together forever. The next day, Jung-hae, Do-hee, and Soo-jum went to the hospital to visit Mi-suk. Mi-suk's mother-in-law had dementia and had been hospitalized for a long time. Mi-suk took care of her like her own mother. The three of them sat and talked while Soo-jum stood guard at the door. At this time, Mi-suk's husband suddenly entered the hospital, causing the revenge group to be exposed. Luckily, when Mi-suk's husband entered, Jung-hae and Do-hee hid in the next bed. As soon as the husband entered, his mother cursed and chased him away. She demanded that he bring her grandson. The heartbreaking truth was revealed. In fact, Mi-suk had another son, but he had died a long time ago. Hearing this news, Do-hee and Jung-hae next to her were extremely surprised. In the group of three, no one had a peaceful life. That night, Mi-suk hurriedly ran into her son's room and saw her husband planning to throw away all of his son's belongings. Mi-suk cried and begged her husband to stop because this was the only place where she could remember her dead child. After this incident, Mi-suk gathered a group of revengers and decided that she did not want to suffer any longer. She had to rise up to protect her remaining child. So at night, Mi-suk locked her son's room. She told her husband that she would not come here anymore, and she also said that her husband had to change, because from now on, Mi-suk would also change. She would not endure her husband's torment anymore. Then Mi-suk left proudly, leaving her husband angry. However, that was not enough. The revenge group gathered again to discuss a longer-term plan. Mi-suk's husband would beat his wife every time he drank, so the problem was how to fix this bad habit. The group of three relied on Soo-jum's intelligence, but no matter what, he was just a child, so he taught everyone how to take revenge by reading comics. Yet the three of them still obediently read comics like the boy said. It was only after a while that Jung-hae realized that the things in the comics were not applicable, so Jung-hae told them to rely on their own strengths. So what strengths were they? Other than money, Jung-hae had nothing else. Do-hee only knows how to cockfight, while Mi-suk has nothing more than patience, but they didn't give up. In the blink of an eye, Jung-hae transformed into an old lady in a sports outfit and went to a fair. Ignoring the fun and street food that attracted her, their goal today was to let Do-hee compete in an arm wrestling competition. Do-hee, with 10 years of experience in cutting fish, won over everyone. The atmosphere of the fair became lively with cheers. This game was not just for fun, but had a purpose, because this was an event to call for support from Mi-suk's husband. Knowing that he would be obedient in a crowded place, Do-hee immediately offered to fight cockfights with Mi-suk's husband. Mi-suk's husband thought that Do-hee was a woman after all, so this was also an opportunity for him to show off in front of the crowd. So he went up to accept the challenge. Although he was good at beating his wife, but Mi-suk's husband was half Do-hee's size. With just a few moves, Do-hee beat Mi-suk's husband until his neck was broken and he had to return home in a neck brace. Mi-suk's husband was forbidden by the doctor from touching alcohol for a while. Mi-suk appeared extremely worried about her husband, but when she turned away, she smiled with satisfaction. At this time, the revenge group encountered a problem. Soo-gyum was suddenly sent a photo of him sitting with the revenge group by an anonymous person. They immediately arranged to meet secretly at a coffee shop. After seeing that no one was suspicious, they discussed who took the photo. Each of them thought that their enemy had discovered it. However, it was also likely that the person was their ally. That person was as powerful as Soo-gyum's grandfather. During the group's general health checkup, Soo-jim and his grandfather had the opportunity to meet again. Grandfather went straight to the point about Soo-jim working with stepmother. He was extremely surprised, but didn't bother to lie because he already knew anyway, so Soo-jim told the truth. He wanted to take revenge on his father, but was surprised when his grandfather suddenly supported Soo-jim. Grandfather told Soo-jim that he could ask for help if he needed it. But things were a bit difficult because Soo-jim's father, although a bit stupid, was a jerk. Seeing his son and his wife being more intimate than before, he also became suspicious. At night, he suddenly came into the room to ask Soo-jim how he was living at home. Seeing that he was becoming suspicious, Soo-jim quickly told that I would try to let you inherit the group. Hearing that his father felt relieved and left. On this side, Do-hee was going to the supermarket with her son when she ran into the arrogant rich mother. Seeing Do-hee, this woman started to mock her again. This woman's son also came to mock Do-hee's son, but Do-hee was now in a new position. Do-hee did not hesitate to respond to the rich mother and scolded her for having money but not intelligence. Living like that, no wonder she had such a spoiled child. The rich mother did not give up and criticized Do-hee's profession. Do-hee told the rich mother that Jung-hae appeared. This made her startled and turned around, but there was no one behind her. However, the rich mother was fooled twice, and the third time she did not believe it anymore. Unexpectedly, Jung-hae really appeared this time. Seeing Jung-hae, the rich mother was scared and quickly pulled her son away. Seeing the rich mother's appearance, Do-hee and Jung-hae were excited. Both of them happily called Mi-suk. Knowing that Mi-suk's husband would be home late today, the two of them immediately gathered at Mi-suk's house. As usual, Do-hee and Mi-suk cooked while Jung-hae wandered around checking everything in the house. Because Jung-hae couldn't do anything, she asked Jung-hae to prepare the onions, but she only washed them. When asked to peel the onions, Jung-hae peeled them to the last grain. In fact, Jung-hae couldn't do anything else besides spending money. The three of them continued to raise their glasses and confide in each other. Mi-suk said that her husband became abusive because of her son's death. It was a big shock that turned their whole family's life upside down. At first, the daughter defended her mother, but later on, she became more and more heartless. Do-hee also talks about her life with the smell of fish all year round. Looking back now, Do-hee realizes that what she lacks is the love of a man. As for Jung-hae, besides having a lot of money, her life is full of tragedy. When they started to get drunk, the three of them took turns cursing the people they hated. They sat there until Mi-suk's husband returned. As soon as Jung-hae saw him, she immediately cursed him as a bastard, causing Mi-suk's husband to not believe his ears. Do-hee covered Jung-hae's mouth, but Mi-suk's husband immediately recognized Do-hee as the person who competed with him the day before. The husband immediately questioned his wife. Mi-suk said that they were a parent association, so they just gathered to talk a bit, so the husband stopped being suspicious. Mi-suk's husband even gave Mi-suk a bouquet of flowers like a romantic husband. But that gentle personality did not last long. Knowing that his daughter was uncomfortable, Mi-suk's husband still went to his daughter's school to campaign. In the end, the father was ignored by his daughter, which made him embarrassed in front of the camera. Soo-jim was also called to greet when he accidentally overheard the conversation between the principal and Mi-suk's husband, so he told the story to the group of Avengers. They quickly guessed that the men wanted to bribe each other, but they couldn't guess where the bad guys would meet. So, the three of them decided to create a meeting place. Meanwhile, Jung-hae's husband showed off the land he took from his son to Jung-hae's sister. He was confident that he would make a big success this time, but Jung-hae's sister had never respected him. The sister called Soo-jim to tell him about his father's story. Of course, Soo-jim firmly opposed selling the land to the corporation. This was also within the sister's guess, so she reported this to Soo-jim's grandfather. He himself was no stranger to these people because everyone wanted to take advantage of Soo-jim, including his grandfather. Grandfather wanted to support his second son to succeed him, so he wanted to use Soo-jim to overthrow his eldest son. The chaebol world was indeed not suitable for Soo-jim. Even his biological mother was no better. When she ran out of money, she went to Jung-hae. After thinking for a night, Jung-hae decided to meet Soo-jim's biological mother. Jung-hae knew that she was a shameless person, but she did not expect that this woman would also threaten Jung-hae, that I would announce to the press that your husband had a lover. Jung-hae smiled after hearing this. Perhaps she was too naive to know how powerful Jung-hae's family was. Jung-hae's husband even raised his own child, but up to now, no newspaper had reported it. Jung-hae said that if you wanted to, you could try to spread the news. Jung-hae challenged her to confront the two largest families in Korea. Soo-jim's biological mother was also scared when heard that. Unable to use that method, she chose a more shameless method, which was to tease Jung-hae with intimate photo with Jung-hae's husband. Jung-hae immediately said that she was really not worthy of being Soo-jim's mother. She said that Soo-jim was born by her. At this time, Soo-jim came over and said that he denied it. Instead of sitting next to his biological mother, he chose to sit next to Jung-hae. He even called Jung-hae was mother, which made his biological mother very angry, because Soo-jim had never considered considered her his mother for a single day. What mother would abandon her child and then turn around and sell her child for money? Even if Soo-gyum died, he would still be a worthless son to both of them. At night, Soo-gyum threw the disgusting photo of his biological parents to his father and said that it was best to never let him see this scene again. The father quickly comforted his son that Jung-hae was now his mother and would not make Soo-gyum sad anymore. Back to the plan to collect bribes from the husbands, the four gathered to teach Jung-hae how to be a wife. Because their plan was to hold a meeting right at Jung-hae's house. That night, Mi-suk and her husband were already at Jung-hae's house. Mi-suk and Jung-hae greeted each other as if they had never been close. Mi-suk even pretended not to know Soo-gyum and let him go out to support Do-hee outside. The principal then quickly arrived. While Jung-hae and Mi-suk were getting ready inside, Do-hee and Soo-gyum sneaked into Mi-suk's husband's car outside. They intended to drive away, but they couldn't because it was too modern, so the two decided to wait in the back seat. Inside, the party had already begun, but because it was a hellish party, the food was inedible. The revenge team had prepared two delicious dishes for Jung-hae and Mi-suk, but the husbands could only eat with tears in their eyes. They forced a smile to get through the meal. After eating, the husbands sat down and started to gossip. Jung-hae immediately used the excuse of bringing out wine to listen in, but when she got closer, they quickly changed the subject. However, she still managed to hear that the secretary was going to put something in the trunk. Mi-suk quickly informed the team outside. Indeed, at this time, a secretary brought a bag of things and put it in the back of Mi-suk's husband's car. Do-hee and Soo-gyum held their breath and hid inside the car, carefully filming the scene of the secretary putting things in the trunk as evidence. When the party ended, Mi-suk drove her husband home. She also did not forget to open the trunk for Do-hee's team to act. After taking her husband to the house, Mi-suk carefully checked to see if her husband was really drunk. Seeing that he was completely asleep, she sneaked out, but unexpectedly the sound of the door woke her husband up. Downstairs in the garage, Do-hee and Soo-gyum nervously opened the gift bag. They carefully opened it and found that inside were just a bunch of health supplements. Upon closer inspection, they found that it was indeed just health supplements. It seemed like today had been a failure, but Jung-hae had planned ahead. When she brought the wine to the men, her had secretly put the recording phone in the ice bucket. When she was about to clean up, the phone in the ice bucket rang. Jung-hae's husband immediately noticed it. Luckily, he was stupid enough to think that Mi-suk had accidentally dropped the phone in the bucket of water. On Mi-suk's side, while she and Do-hee were talking, Mi-suk's husband came over. Luckily, the trunk of the car covered it, so they were able to fool the husband. The next morning, the revenge group gathered again to share the failure of this mission. But because of that failure, they saw another opportunity. They immediately took advantage of the health supplements that Mi-suk's husband had been given. The whole group went to find a herbalist to prescribe medicine for a person who went crazy after getting drunk. The herbalist immediately gave them a herbal medicine that made the user become kind-hearted, loved animals, loved vegetables, and feared alcohol. Mi-suk immediately took that magic medicine home and swapped it with a tonic. That night, Mi-suk brought the tonic out for her husband to take. The husband, without suspecting anything, quickly put it in his mouth and chewed it. The next morning, when the husband ate breakfast, he suddenly found the vegetables more delicious than usual. That night, when he watched the Animal World program, he even cried for the fate of the penguin. Mi-suk saw her husband's change and happily reported it to Jung-hae and Do-hee. After that, the husband completely changed. When he went to parties with his colleagues, he no longer drank alcohol. He also told his subordinates to be vegetarian and recite Buddha's name because the beef or pork they were eating might be them in the future. But this did not last long. One day, Mi-suk's husband watched the news about a wife who secretly poisoned her health supplements because her husband was abusing her, so he immediately suspected the health supplements his wife gave him. He immediately told Mi-suk to try it. Mi-suk did not hesitate to put it in her mouth to chew and swallow, but it still did not make him stop being wary. He told her to throw away the remaining pills. So the efforts of the past few days were in vain. Jung-hae also changed her tactics. She showed more concern for her husband, which surprised her husband greatly. The first time Jung-hae personally bought health supplements for him, he could not believe it. Not only that, Jung-hae also learned to be a mother. She went online to learn how to get close to her children, then practiced with Soo-gyum, like complimenting his clothes, peeling an apple for him to eat, even though there were only seeds left. While talking to Do-hee, Jung-hae learned that loving a child is cooking for them. So, Jung-hae also went home to practice cooking. This was the first pot of noodles she had cooked in her life. Soo-gyum eagerly opened it and saw a big green onion in the pot, but he still happily accepted it. However, seeing Jung-hae and Soo-gyum happy together, Jung-hae's husband began to have doubts. He immediately sent someone to follow the two of them. The next day, Jung-hae personally went to school to pick up Soo-gyum. This scene happened to be seen by Soo-gyum's biological mother, so she took a picture and sent it to secretary to bring to Jung-hae's husband. Seeing this, Jung-hae's husband thought that his wife and his son had an affair. Furthermore, he was provoked by his younger brother, saying saying that he should be careful. After all, it's not impossible to have an 18-year age gap. This made Jung-hae's husband even more suspicious. At night, he saw Jung-hae and Soo-jim talking intimately, which made him even more dissatisfied. Furthermore, Soo-jim's biological mother also went to Soo-jim's uncle. This person was Jung-hae's husband's younger brother, and the biological mother's purpose was to ask for money. By talking about the intimacy between Jung-hae and Soo-jim, the news quickly reached the grandfather. He called the two people over and told Jung-hae to keep her distance. Even though Jung-hae had lived this long, she never expected them to think of her dating her husband's illegitimate child. Jung-hae's husband, after seeing his younger brother being increasingly valued and being provoked, turned to alcohol. After getting drunk and seeing Jung-hae with his son, he started a fight. He questioned the two people about why they were together. Jung-hae said that the one who wanted her to be close to Soo-jim was him, and now the one who was upset because she was close was also him. She didn't know what was going on in his mind. Jung-hae didn't want to argue and went straight back to her room. Soo-jim also didn't hesitate to stop his father with a determined look. The next morning on the way to the market, the principal was caught by Do-hee. Seeing that she was a parent of his school, the principal wanted to ask for the fish to take away. Unexpectedly, Do-hee not only asked for money, but also took the opportunity to smear some fishy smell on him. However, after he left, he turned back and found Jung-hae and Mi-suk there. He also heard about their revenge group, so he sneaked after the three of them. Mi-suk discovered him through the mirror and quickly informed Jung-hae and Do-hee. They quickly pretended not to see anything and ran away. After a while, Jung-hae stopped and realized that she had done nothing wrong and had to avoid him, so the three of them went back to question the principal when he saw that he pretended to be lost and ran away. But the next day, the revenge group received an anonymous letter. Someone knew about their existence. Suspicion fell on the husbands. Mi-suk's husband suddenly went to the trash, and what he found was the address of the health supplement shop that Mi-suk had not yet disposed of. After knowing the truth, he started to find fault with his wife. Luckily, the health supplement was not harmful, but he still told Mi-suk to limit her time with Jung-hae and Do-hee. His caution was justified because the principal had told the story of the revenge group and told the husbands to be careful. Hearing that Jung-hae's husband also looked at his wife with suspicion, without beating around the bush, Jung-hae immediately showed her husband the anonymous letter she had received. She asked him if it was from him. It would be better to make it public like this to avoid his suspicion. The husbands could be fooled, but the principal was very cunning. After checking the school's cameras, the principal was certain that his stomachaches the day before was caused by the revenge group and that he had sent the anonymous letter. In order to get revenge on the three people from the revenge group, the principal went to Do-hee's fish shop, pretended to buy fish, and asked about her relationship with the two women. Do-hee didn't hesitate to say that they were very close. Do-hee didn't expect that the man who came to buy fish would call the police to arrest her for selling fish that was not fresh. The police quickly confiscated all of her fish and also asked Do-hee to close the shop. Do-hee didn't know what to do, so she could only complain to Jung-hae and Mi-suk. The two of them quickly admitted that the principal had done this. Fortunately, after the investigation, the police found no violations, so Do-hee was allowed to reopen the shop. However, reputation is something that is hard to regain, and customers began to boycott. Seeing Do-hee sad, Mi-suk and Jung-hae couldn't stand by and watch. They only saw that after the two of them left, customers flocked to buy fish. It turned out that Jung-hae had hired passersby to buy fish, but the passersby's blatant acting was eventually discovered by Do-hee. She was both sad and angry at Jung-hae and Mi-suk. She called the two of them back to blame them, and while she was talking, Do-hee received a phone call from her son's school. Do-hee immediately ran to the school. At school, the rich friend always mocked Do-hee's son when saw him. This friend even showed a clip of Do-hee kneeling and begging him and his mother to anger Do-hee's son. Seeing this, the son couldn't control his anger and was about to punch his rich friend. Suddenly, his sister appeared and punched this boy away, but the rich friend was so timid that he fainted. In the principal's office, the rich mother expressed her indignation and asked the principal to handle the matter seriously. But Do-hee was different now, so after making sure her daughter had done nothing wrong, she went to the rich mother's room. Do-hee challenged this woman to sue. She had been wrongly accused so many times that she was used to it, but things weren't that simple. The next day when Do-hee's daughter went to school, she was boycotted by all the students. Someone had released a clip of her kicking the rich boy. That angle really made her condemned by the public. Reporters quickly surrounded her. The news was even pushed to the news bulletin. Do-hee's daughter's future was over. Faced with such a situation, Do-hee put aside her pride to go find the rich mother and once again begged her to spare her daughter. But this woman still wouldn't let it go. If that was the case, Do-hee wouldn't bow to them anymore. Do-hee went home and told her two children to try their best. They would fight together. As if she had inherited her mother's character, she went straight to the principal's office. After being scolded by the rich mother, Do-hee's daughter did not not hesitate to say that she would not admit any mistakes and was determined to reveal the truth to the end. But will they win when the rich mother also bribes the principal to deal with Do-hee's daughter? Seeing such a situation, Soo-jim could not leave it alone. He went to Mi-suk's daughter. Soo-jim knew that the rich friend really liked Mi-suk's daughter, so Soo-jim wanted to ask Mi-suk's daughter for help. Mi-suk's daughter immediately went to the hospital to visit the rich friend. When he saw her, he quickly sat up to greet her. Mi-suk's daughter said that she thought he was injured, but why did he look so fine? He immediately fell into the trap and said that he was fine. This was a trick set up by his mother to demand compensation from Do-hee. Little did he know that what he said had been recorded by Soo-jim outside. Soo-jim quickly brought it to Jung-hae's group. With the evidence in hand, Do-hee's style changed. Do-hee showed the video to the rich mother, making her extremely scared. This woman was flustered and begged Do-hee for forgiveness. But how could Do-hee let it go so easily? Do-hee made an appointment to meet her in court. The rich mother quickly chased after her and knelt down to beg Do-hee to let it go. Do-hee said that if he wanted to receive forgiveness, you had to do as Do-hee said. That night, the rich mother suddenly had dinner with the principal. During the meal, she suggested words to make the principal admit all his mistakes. Do-hee and Soo-jim directed all the lines for the rich mother from afar. The headmaster, who was infatuated with women, immediately revealed everything. The next morning, as soon as he arrived at school, he met Do-hee. The recording of yesterday's conversation made him panic, and he quickly begged Do-hee to let it go. He promised to give Do-hee's daughter a permanent job. It sounded interesting, so Do-hee brought this matter up to ask her opinion. Immediately, Do-hee's daughter was called to a disciplinary meeting. The principal offered to give her a permanent job with a high salary, but the daughter demanded compensation for her contract and asked for permission to quit her job. After that, she proudly took her luggage and left, which meant the principal had to receive appropriate punishment. He was surrounded and questioned by reporters for his crimes. He could no longer keep his position as principal because he had lost his job and no one cared about him. He was so angry that he went to Do-hee's house to cause trouble. Unexpectedly, he became a laughing stock here. When the revenge group threw him outside the bus stop for everyone to laugh at, Soo-jim's biological mother went to Jung-hae's sister to ask for money. Jung-hae's sister looked at this woman with great contempt, but she threatened to post news about Jung-hae having an affair with her illegitimate child to blackmail. Once again, she sold her son. Jung-hae's sister agreed to give her some money. Then Jung-hae's sister went to Jung-hae's husband to talk and told him to be careful before he was kicked out of the family because of the scandals. Poor Jung-hae had to endure her sister's sarcasm. Her sister threw Jung-hae's picture with Soo-jim and said that no matter what Jung-hae did, she had to pay attention to the family's reputation. Jung-hae said she would divorce that scumbag, but surprisingly her sister did not agree, because for her sister, Jung-hae being able to enter this family was already a blessing, so Jung-hae had to repay the debt with this economic marriage. After that, her sister left, leaving Jung-hae alone. This was the first time Jung-hae felt helpless with her own identity. She collapsed in the car and cried. Jung-hae immediately went to the public bathhouse to heal herself. She thought she was alone, but when she opened her eyes, the revenge group was already there. No one replied to her messages, but they all came here. They regained their spirits and continued their revenge together. There is one thing that can never change, which is the temperament of the rich. The lady was choosing things in the mall when she was caught by her husband's lover. Having no shame, Soo-jim even came to talk to Jung-hae. Jung-hae also taught her a lesson. Seeing this woman looking at the bag, Jung-hae pointed and told the staff to bag up the entire store and bring it to her home. Jung-hae also told the staff not to sell to anyone in the future. Then she leisurely left. Soo-jim's biological mother was angry and was chased out of the store by the staff. On this side, Mi-suk's husband only wanted to run for the position of minister, so he brought his wife to the orphanage where Mi-suk grew up to campaign. Despite Mi-suk's objections, he still announced to the reporters that his wife was an orphan to gain everyone's pity. Mi-suk was disgusted by this man, so she ran into the bathroom to wash her face. Memories of the years she was mistreated in the orphanage came flooding back. Because she was an abandoned child, so Mi-suk always had an inferiority complex. She was also taught by the people at the orphanage that she was abandoned because she was useless and weak. This was the reason Mi-suk lived her whole life with patience. Suffering from such injuries, Mi-suk only knew how to cry to her mother-in-law. Although Mi-suk's mother-in-law was confused, the mother still loved her very much. When Mi-suk returned home, her husband blamed her. He was so drunk that he started to break things. His daughter could only sit and cry with her headphones on. Unable to bear it any longer, Mi-suk made an appointment with a reporter to tell the truth about her husband's face. Not only was he abusive, but because of his position, he also hid the fact that his son had died. In fact, the boy had committed suicide because of pressure from his father. Mi-suk did not expect that her search for a reporter would be reported to her husband. When her husband returned home, he immediately acted as if he did not know anything. everything. A few days later, when the news had spread, he held a press conference to tell about his son's death because of pressure from studying. Once again, he sold his family to attract public pity. Jung-hae's husband was no less mean. Through her rich mother, Jung-hae found out that she had lost all her assets. She immediately went to find her husband to question him about how he dared to transfer her buildings. Yet he brazenly said that hers was the same as his and told Jung-hae that she just needed to obediently be his wife and shopping. But how could Jung-hae let this matter rest? She couldn't let her husband be complacent for long. The next day, he panicked and went to find Jung-hae because she had now registered to transfer shares to her husband's younger brother. As long as his younger brother had her shares, his younger brother would definitely win the chairmanship. This made Jung-hae's husband extremely scared. He said that he would immediately return the buildings to her. Not only that, Jung-hae also made a deal with her older sister. If her older sister helped her bring down her husband, Jung-hae would give all the shares she had in the family to her older sister. Hearing this, her older sister gradually became interested. After the surprises, the husbands began to pay attention to the revenge group. The two men immediately went to Do-hee to ask her what happened. With a fish knife in Do-hee's hand, the two husbands were extremely scared. Do-hee said that they were just close siblings. The two husbands felt that staying longer was not good, so they left. Jung-hae's husband worriedly ran back to the company because Soo-jum's biological mother had come here to ask for money. Soo-jum saw his mother and was embarrassed and pulling her hand out. Soo-jum had to say that both mother and son should die together, so she was scared and ran away. Jung-hae's husband didn't dare to show his face. The chairman was also crazy about his stupid son. Jung-hae's husband quickly sent someone to pack up Soo-jum's biological mother's things and forced her to go abroad, but she quickly escaped. In order to stop the activities of the revenge group as well as Jung-hae's actions, her husband planned to send Jung-hae and Soo-jum to America. Jung-hae threw the documents her husband gave her into the trash, as well as ending her marriage with him. At this time, Soo-jum's biological mother had no money left after escaping. She had no choice but to return to the motel to search every corner for money. Unexpectedly, she was caught by a lady who was none other than Jung-hae. Jung-hae threw a bag of money and told her to do something. Seeing that her husband seemed to be discussing something important, Mi-suk immediately used the excuse of bringing out food to eavesdrop, but she was tactfully chased away by him. Mi-suk immediately suspected, so when the guests left, she pretended to clean up but was actually collecting evidence. But the cunning husband was still extremely cautious, leaving Mi-suk no chance. With no other choice, Mi-suk went to her husband's office to continue searching. But before she could do anything, the assistant had already destroyed the documents. Mi-suk had no choice but to find the trash bag that the secretary had just thrown away. She brought it to Jung-hae and Do-hee. Now the only way for them to have a chance to win this battle was to sit down and reassemble each page. So the three of them took it home to assemble. The tiny pieces of paper and numbers were what gave them a headache. Mi-suk took it to the hospital, but her sick mother-in-law destroyed it again. The revenge group was almost helpless with a pile of scraps of paper on the table, but they did not expect that the person most capable of helping them was this absent-minded mother-in-law. Unfortunately, a few days later, the mother-in-law suddenly fell into critical condition. Mi-suk worriedly called her husband, but he was busy running for election, so he refused to come see his mother. Mi-suk desperately prayed for her mother-in-law. Fortunately, her mother-in-law was out of danger. She hurriedly went home to pack her clothes to go to the hospital to take care of her mother, but saw the news about her husband on TV. The daughter watched her father lie on the screen and was disappointed. At this time, Mi-suk's husband came home. The daughter stood up for the first time to scold her father. He was the one who killed his son, but he lied. Mi-suk's husband heard that and immediately scolded his daughter. The daughter dared her father to hit her because she really wanted to die too. The father raised his hand to hit his daughter, but Mi-suk immediately grabbed his hand and slapped him. This was the first time she fought back and also the first time she hit him in the face because he was not allowed to touch her daughter. Mi-suk told her daughter to pack things and leave the house. Early the next morning, Mi-suk told the story to the revenge group. Everyone was dissatisfied with her husband, even Jung-hae's husband. All those men were worthless. This made them even more indignant. Jung-hae was no longer gentle and immediately got to work. She was present at the shareholders meeting, even though she had never cared about business before. Looking at her position, it was clear how large her shares were. Thanks to this meeting, Jung-hae knew that her husband had been assigned a big project. The opportunity came. Jung-hae immediately listened to his schedule and discussed it with the revenge group. If the husband's meeting with his partner failed, he would lose everything. The husband was leisurely in the hotel room preparing everything for the meeting tomorrow and then went to bed. Taking this opportunity, the revenge group sneaked into the hotel room and tore up the documents he had prepared. They conveniently tore up his clothes and soaked some fish sauce in his belongings. They even changed his phone and alarm passwords. He woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, but still didn't discover anything anything unusual. As a result, the next morning, Jung-hae's husband opened his eyes when the sun was high in the sky. While he was panicking, the phone password couldn't be accessed and the receptionist's phone line had been cut off. It took him a long time to decipher the password to get his clothes, but they smelled of fish sauce. Even so, he still went down to the hotel lobby to meet his partner. While the partner was angry and left, despite the chairman's efforts to explain and persuade him, the father was trying his best to stop the partner from leaving when he saw his son coming in, smelly and miserable. Then Soo-jim's biological mother came out of nowhere, making everyone think Jung-hae's husband had slept with his lover and woke up late. So the meeting with the partner was considered a failure. It turned out that Soo-jim's biological mother's appearance was set up by Jung-hae and Soo-jim. Their plan was a complete success. This failure was added by Jung-hae's sister. She told the chairman that he had been careless in trusting his son, leading to a great loss for both families. Perhaps her family should reconsider this business relationship. The husband was immediately fired and then got drunk and started a fight with Jung-hae. But he was originally just a coward, so after saying 2 sentences, Jung-hae talked back and kicked him out. Helpless, he went to Soo-jim to ask to help him change his phone password. Knowing that his son had betrayed him, he was so angry that he couldn't do anything. Not knowing who to rely on, he went to Jung-hae's sister. He thought Jung-hae's sister would be on his side, but he didn't know that Jung-hae had made a better deal. So Jung-hae's sister wished him luck and left. Even Soo-jim's biological mother was on Jung-hae's side. Today, Jung-hae came to take Soo-jim's mother to meet the reporters to expose her husband's hypocritical and despicable face. But still, they shouldn't trust someone like this woman. Soo-jim's mother immediately sided with Jung-hae's husband when he gave her a larger sum of money. A few days later, the press released a video of her crying and saying that Jung-hae had stolen her son. Soo-jim couldn't believe that his biological mother was so shameless and despicable. The reporters quickly surrounded Jung-hae's car. They went into her house to question her bastard husband about why he did this. He proudly said that he would make Jung-hae lose everything, but perhaps he had forgotten that without Jung-hae his life would be nothing. He arrogantly asked Jung-hae what she had to overthrow him. At this time, Jung-hae received a phone call from Mi-suk, so Jung-hae boldly said that she already had the thing to overthrow him. It turned out that before died Mi-suk's mother-in-law had put together the scraps of paper Mi-suk brought, which were the numbers talking about the illegal activities of her husband's. At this time, Jung-hae was not afraid at all. She held a family meeting and informed her father that she would divorce this bastard husband. At first, her father was shocked and strongly opposed, but fortunately, her sister spoke up for her. Jung-hae's sister said that because this son-in-law caused their corporation to suffer losses, it was better that this marriage did not exist. Soo-jim's biological mother was on her way to escape abroad. Soo-jim chased her to the airport and advised her to confess and proving Jung-hae's innocence, but his biological mother refused, even though Soo-jim called mother. That was the first time he called her was mother in his life. Even though he was hesitant to call her was mother, she still left. A few days ago, Mi-suk's mother-in-law passed away. Mi-suk was extremely heartbroken and sat crying next to her mother's portrait. Her husband was still looking for something sad to gain the support of the leaders. The husband did not know what to do and went crazy and beat her up. Mi-suk remembered mother-in-law's words before she died. She said that Mi-suk must be happy and live well. Mi-suk stood up and decided to leave this cruel husband. Mi-suk and her daughter moved to Do-hee's house until the day of successful revenge. Mi-suk immediately started writing down the accusations against her husband. At this time, her husband suddenly called and wanted to meet. Since his wife left, he realized that a part of his life was missing. The husband immediately came and used sweet words to promise to change so that his wife and child could return home, but he refused to give up running for office. Mi-suk felt helpless with him when she heard that. Do-hee and Jung-hae also rushed out to protect Mi-suk and did not let Cho Mi-suk soften in front of this kind of person. The two husbands whose wives abandoned them could only sit and drink together. Tomorrow is their big day, but if it goes on like this, everything will be in vain. So they start to play tricks. When Jung-hae's husband comes home, he acts sweet and indulgent towards her, which makes Jung-hae hate him. She reminds him that nothing will change. Their marriage is over. Tomorrow, when Mi-suk and Jung-hae are preparing for a press conference, TV shows Mi-suk's husband withdrawing from the election. However, it's not because he has good intentions. He's just trying to gain public sympathy, because if the people support him, even if he withdraws, he can still come back. Not letting the husbands be complacent, Jung-hae and Mi-suk's press conference still takes place. There are very few reporters, but they still try to tell the truth. Mi-suk tells the whole story about her son's death being caused by her abusive husband's excessive pressure. But the reporter asks for evidence of abuse, and Mi-suk trembles because she doesn't have it. Suddenly, Mi-suk's daughter stepped in and admitted that everything her mother said was true. Seeing that the mother was resisting, the daughter stood up to protect mother. The two hugged and cried. Jung-hae's husband also lost everything. Soo-jim's biological biological mother finally came to her senses and sent Soo-game a video recording of the entire interview that day. Jung-hae also presented evidence of the husband's corruption. When Mi-suk's husband stepped out, he was pelted with rotten eggs by passersby. Now even passersby no longer supported him. Soon after, the inspector also came to find him for corruption. Jung-hae's husband ran home and begged his wife for forgiveness, but it was too late because the inspector had already come to take him away. Everything finally ended. Soo-jum also began to open up to his biological mother. Mi-suk and her daughter also talked to each other. Mi-suk's daughter had always been indifferent because she hated her mother's suffering because of her. Now that the two of them depended on each other to live, everything would be fine. As for Do-hee, she now had someone she loved, and her son deliberately created situations to help his mother. After everything, Jung-hae went to find her father-in-law and asked him to let Soo-jum be free because of their relationship. Don't force him into the temptations and status of the K-ball. Thanks to that, Soo-jum had a more relaxed life. His relationship with Mi-suk's daughter seemed to progress better than friendship. As agreed, Jung-hae gave her shares to her sister, which meant that Jung-hae gave up her identity as the daughter of a wealthy family. Her sister was extremely surprised by Jung-hae's actions. Before leaving, Jung-hae did not forget to leave a piece of cake with a thank you note and a goodbye message. Hearing that her sister laughed, perhaps after this incident, her sister had also considered Jung-hae as younger sister. The revenge group gathered together again. Looking back at the whole process, it was unbelievable that they had come this far. They originally did not trust each other at all in the beginning, but now they were like family. Now that the revenge was over, each person's purpose would be different. Soo-jum will temporarily go to the mountains to review for the university entrance exam. Mi-suk doesn't know what she will do. Do-hee will continue her job as a fishmonger. Jung-hae will travel around the world. They say goodbye to each other and promise to meet again in a year. A year has passed very quickly. Jung-hae returns to the country with a completely new look. The first thing she does is call Do-hee and Mi-suk to inform them. On Do-hee's side, everything was extremely satisfying. Her daughter also passed the civil service exam after many efforts. She also has a very handsome boyfriend. Mi-suk and her daughter do volunteer work together at the orphanage. When they meet Jung-hae again, the revenge group is extremely surprised by her new appearance. All four of them go to the revenge group's base. It turns out that Jung-hae has opened a hot spring bathhouse in the capital, using the revenge group's name as the brand. Jung-hae even hired Soo-jum's biological mother to work there. This woman now knows how to earn money with her own hands and even gives Soo-jum pocket money, making him feel her motherly love. The revenge group meets again, and they suddenly wonder what to do next. Suddenly, the group sees a husband bullying his wife outside the door, and the anger inside them rises again, causing the group to rush out crazily. Perhaps the revenge group will continue to carry out justice in other ways. Avengers Social Club movie has also ended here. Goodbye and see you all in the next videos.